Program Director, Your Excellency, Chairperson of COMESA and President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, President Kabila, Your Excellency, the incoming Chair of COMESA and our gracious host, His Excellency Mariam Desalegn, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union, President of Zimbabwe, Excellency Robert Gabriel Mugabe, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, and Excellencies, First Ladies, hopefully one day we can say first spouses, Excellencies, leaders of delegation and ministers of COMESA, Excellency Executive Secretary of UNECA, Carlos Lopez, Excellency Secretary General of COMESA, the representative of the President of the African Development Bank, Geraldine, and all the distinguished members on the front table, and ambassadors and representatives of the diplomatic corps, and maybe I'll follow representatives of COMESA Business Council and the chair of the COMESA Business Council. And I'll follow my brother and say all protocol observed, and my sister there, the Commissioner of Trade. A very warm welcome to all of you to the African Union headquarters. And I'm sure that by now you are completely at home since this is your home anyway. And I'm just very proud to say, when I hear you talking about investments and creative ways of raising funds, that maybe I should say to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, I actually contribute to that dam almost every day because I get so many messages on the SMS asking me to contribute. And so we are contributing through the SMS campaign. We don't have shares, but we are contributing through the SMS campaign that you are running very efficiently. 50 years ago, one of the founders of the African Union declared that Africa must unite or perish. As we gather here today in Addis Ababa, where this declaration was made, it is still a rallying call for our generation, albeit in a different context. The AU Summit in January adopted Agenda 2063 and instructed the AU Commission to finalize its first 10-year implementation plan and present it to the summit in June. The call to unite or perish is key to Agenda 2063 and its vision of an integrated, peaceful, people-centered and prosperous continent that takes its rightful place in the world. Excellencies, the shift in focus from aspirations to implementation of Agenda 2063 requires of us to be very practical in our approaches, to foster maximum participation of all sectors of African society, and to be willing to take risks and chart new pathways. At the beginning of March, we held a workshop with planners from member states and RECs in Zambia, and the message was clear that they all want to domesticate Agenda 2063 into regional and national plans, and so we have to also look at national budgeting and implementation. We have also asked for a study to be conducted on the capacities required for the implementation and monitoring and evaluation of Agenda 2063. And this is practically to say what specific skills do Africa need, in what numbers, to implement, for example, infrastructure programs, what division of labor between member states, RECs, and the African Union Commission and other continental institutions, and what capacities do we have or do we lack? And also to look at the diaspora and see what capacities can we get from the diaspora, both in terms of capacity, but also mobilizing resources from the diaspora. Excellencies, we are aware that these practical issues are of concern to COMESA and all the RECs. And we can learn many lessons from the work that you have done as COMESA, such as trade support and facilitation within the region, including women cross-border traders, on harmonization and the move towards a free trade area, to name but a few. As we therefore consider the key actions necessary within the first 10-year plan, we know that COMESA and the RECs will be key partners in the priorities of Agenda 2063. Let me just mention a few. Firstly, maybe since I live here in Ethiopia, let me say that we appreciate the good example by Ethiopia to invest in its people. Expansion in health, enlargement in higher education, vocational training, and a relentless focus on science, technology, engineering, and maths. In fact, Ethiopia has moved from just 2 universities to many, I think 40 or more now, and many vocational training centers. But what is more impressive for us as the AU, which we think we should really learn from, is that 70% of their intake now is in STEM areas, in science. And 40% of that 70% is in engineering of all areas. And I think this is a very good example. And you can see the resultant high level of growth. That is testimony that investment in our people and African skills revolution is indeed necessary and possible. I was very happy to hear you talk about the emphasis you are putting on agriculture. And I know that RU Forum, which is a forum of universities, mainly a lot of them COMESA members, are playing a very important role in driving agricultural innovation and to develop the necessary skills for agriculture, including attracting more young people. And also, the region is also doing well towards the transformation of agriculture and agro-food processing. And the African commodity strategy that we have been talking about must help to galvanize these initiatives, building on the country's success stories. And in COMESA, we have lots of those: Malawi, Kenya, Ethiopia, and so on. As the majority of the workforce in agriculture are women, and women farmers need technology. They need access to markets, irrigation, skills, extension services, land rights. Building on the Year of Agriculture, we are determined to respond to women's call to bring the hand-held hoe to the museum by championing a campaign that I hope you will all support, of introduction of alternatives, such as tillers. I think in the 21st century, we shouldn't really be happy when we see our sisters, our mothers, our grandmothers breaking their backs with that handheld hoe, when there are cost-effective technologies that can be introduced. And as part of Agenda 2063, the first decade, we must work towards eliminating the handheld hoe from the continent. And that will free women's time. It will attract younger people to agriculture, and it will improve productivity. We want to work with COMESA and the heads of state and government, as well as the private sector, on this initiative, so that indeed by the end of this decade, we can say we have realized this very humble aspiration of women. In addition, with your support, we will tackle the issue of financial inclusion of women and young people through engagement, the financial institutions, on how to improve women and young people's access to capital and financial services. Your Excellencies, our initiatives on infrastructure and COMESA is a very good example of how they've taken this as a practical issue, and all the projects around hydro energy in Ethiopia, Uganda, DRC, the geothermal energy projects, expanding solar and wind, manufacturing components in Africa, and the transport corridors, road, rail, as well as building of the African aviation market, and these practical ways in which we make Agenda 2063 happen. Now, I was very happy to hear that in June, the tripartite continental free trade is going to be launched, which is going to actually give momentum to the African free trade area. So congratulations, and hope that we will not hear in the next few months that it has been postponed to October and maybe postponed to next year. We hope that Egypt will hold you to that to host this launch. But of course, the launch will have to be followed by many other things. Communication, we'll have to learn from some of the members of COMESA how they've facilitated communication and free movement of people and goods. Doesn't help to have a free trade area and we still can't get around. So we can learn also from these, from some of your members, like Rwanda, so that Africans can move freely, and this free trade area can be very meaningful to everybody. And of course, infrastructure. If we have a free trade area from Cape to Cairo, why don't we have a high-speed rail from Cape to Cairo? Why don't we have highways from Cape to Cairo? So I think these things should now all be facilitated by what you have been doing. And I know that COMESA has been the driving force behind this tripartite free trade. But also, I would like to just remind ourselves that this is the year of the empowerment of women. And it would be a travesty if I don't talk about that. The empowerment of women also means we must be practical about their representation in all areas of human endeavor. They must participate in everything, not only at the grassroots, but also at the decision-making. This year, we'll have parliamentary elections, I think in Ethiopia, in Burundi, in Sudan, and Egypt. And we hope that the women representation will be at least between 30 and 50% or more. We will not accept anything less than 30%. We will accept nothing less than 30%. And this is possible. Seychelles has 40-something percent, but Rwanda has 64%, leading the world. So we will not listen to something that says it's not possible, because within COMESA, we've seen it's possible. So we are waiting very eagerly for that. And of course, not only in Parliament, we hope to see them in Cabinet, in judiciary, in every area of human endeavor. And this being the Year of Women, we are going to, in June, introduce a scorecard or an index, working with my brothers here, where we will praise, show each country where it's doing well, and find a way of honoring those countries and finding a way of encouraging those who are not doing well to also do well. Because I think it's important right at the beginning of Agenda 2063 to have a baseline of where women are, so that we can be able to monitor and evaluate where we are taking them. And of course, Agenda 2063 will not be achieved if we do not include women. It's their right, but also it makes political, economic, social, and cultural sense to do so. I would also just want to say on another practical note that we will be organizing a meeting that will be for political leadership, for business leadership, and for academic leadership, our intellectuals and leaders of our academic institutions. Because we think there needs to be a dialogue amongst these three areas if Agenda 2063 is to move. And we hope that before the end of this year, we will have our first of those meetings. With those few words, I really would like to thank COMESA for having realized that this is your home. You can have meetings here. You don't only have to be in your capitals, but this is your home as well. So we are very happy to have you here, and we wish you very productive discussions and look forward to the results. Thank you.